Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is part 2 of co-podcast number 4 with Dennis from Black Tie Kitchen. This is not going to be something that we do every week. As I said in part 1, probably every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks, something like that. But it just so happened that we had enough material that I could record 2 podcasts, and I'm able to cover myself while I'm on vacation this week. So that also means that you probably shouldn't expect me to be really active in the comments this week replying to people. So this half of the podcast obviously picks up right where part 1 ended, which is where Dennis is really trying to probe me to find out if I'm working on anything secret, if I've got some big recipe plan. And the reality is, most weeks I'm scrambling to come up with a recipe. But we'll talk about that right now.
Like, what's your long term secret project that you haven't disclosed to anybody or
Hot
want
dog
to
bun.
take on? Like, what's on your short list?
You know, to me, the most difficult thing is the recipes. I think very often those are the ones that I kind of pull out of my butt on like a Tuesday
Mm-hmm.
for a Friday release. Um, I have no shortage of reviews because people just I have companies constantly saying, "Can we send you something?" and review it. And they're probably I would rather be doing cooking videos, honestly, but a review video I can do in one take. There's one shot, one camera setup, editing is fast, and there is a certain portion of my viewership that doesn't have the time to cook and wants to buy prepared keto food items.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another portion that thinks it's absolutely blasphemous to buy any sort of prepackaged keto food. But I got to kind of play to my entire viewership, and some people do appreciate those reviews, so I do them. I never run out of those. People will keep sending me stuff, so that's easy. Podcast, I kind of feel like I don't know how much longer I can go on with the not so serious keto video podcast.
Mm-hmm.
um, I see that switching over to the other channel, Lean Body Mind, just because it gives me more latitude in terms of topics. And then I see doing periodic, co-podcasts like with you.
Mm-hmm.
But the recipes, that's honestly the biggest challenge because I want to do something good. I also, because very often I'm always making food for my family. If I don't get it right the first try, then, my family's not going to be interested in eating bourbon chicken every night for 2 straight weeks until I get it right.
Yeah, you have to have that
So,
that small test batch.
so for me, that's the biggest challenge. And then I also try to sort of alternate between the slightly more complex, slightly, closer to gourmet, something, some variation off of a Milk Street or Food and Wine sort of recipe that I've keto-fied. And then here's a simple thing. Here's a chaffle. Here's a 90-second microwave tortilla. So that you're appealing just like the cooking versus the pre-made keto stuff, those two aspects of my viewership. I've got the aspect that wants something pretty convenient, but they still want to cook. And then I got the people that are willing to spend an hour making dinner.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of like for lack of a better term, the weekend chefs. Like, hey, I can't do this during the week, but I can do a Saturday night, Friday night, Saturday night. Not much going on at the moment. Let's make some braised ribs.
Now, fortunately, I can always grab my Milk Street Tuesday night cookbook and, flip through that and see what I can find that's, okay, all I got to do is substitute cauliflower rice, or all I got to do is, put in swerve or allulose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is that sort of your starting point? Like, let's say you're looking at something baked. Is that the usual, like, if I could talk, all right, let's sub sugar out for allulose or bocha sweet, and let's see what else we can do here. Then start from there, or do you take a more scientific in terms of measurements approach to it?
No, what I really do if I see a recipe that I like, something shows up in my Google News feed, or I'm watching an episode of America's Test Kitchen or Mexico One Plate at a Time or Milk Street, or I'm flipping through Food and Wine. I mean, I get Food and Wine. You're lucky if you get 2 or 3 recipes out of any episode of Food and Wine,
Mm-hmm.
or issue of Food and Wine, they can be keto-fied because, they're just, you hit a certain number of ingredients that you wind up subbing, and suddenly you're like, okay, this doesn't even resemble the original recipe anymore. It's not the same food item. But fortunately, you get through a lot of them, and it's just like, oh, it uses ketchup. Fine, I'll use sugar-free ketchup. Oh, it uses honey. All right, I'll use an allulose-based honey.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the easy ones. Then you start getting into anything that has flour, and suddenly you're just like, probably not going to happen.
So what are your sort of top sources of inspiration? Obviously, Milk Street, Food and Wine. Are there any others or any sort of channels you watch that kind of keep you like, oh, that's interesting. Let me write something down, and then kind of leads down a path?
I almost never watch any YouTube cooking videos,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not out of any sort of arrogance or anything like that. Part of it is just I've got a limited amount of time, and if I'm going to spend time sort of entertaining myself, I want to do it on something that's not my job. I think often, and we may have talked about this at some point, that episode of Seinfeld where Jerry starts dating a massage therapist, and he
Mm-hmm.
thinks that means he's going to get a massage all the time. She's like, no, I don't want to do that when I'm not at work. So I'm not interested in watching YouTube videos because that's what I do. I make YouTube videos. So I've probably got close to 200 cookbooks. I love cookbooks. I read cookbooks. I don't like look through recipes. To me,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a novel. I go through and I read. So I think that's an inspiration. Um, and then just crazy ideas. I wake up at 2 in the morning almost every night slash morning, and I'll have some sort of crazy idea. And lots of times it builds off of a previous recipe. So I had done these chicken thigh kebabs. I forget what was special about them, besides the fact that the marinade slash sauce that they're in, you take bacon and you just puree bacon almost into like a paste.
Hmm.
And then you coat these chunks of chicken thigh in the bacon paste. There may have been some my barbecue rub or something in there too. And then, you're grilling bacon paste on chicken, and it's infusing it with fat and flavor. And I think I stole that idea from America's Test Kitchen. But after we had it, we thought, wow, this tastes a lot like that bourbon chicken you get at the mall that they give you for, you're walking by and
Yeah.
they have it on a
Yeah, as a
toothpick and you
sample.
taste it and you're like, okay, I got to have some of that. It had that same sort of texture. I'm like, you know what? Bacon and bourbon. Well, that's a taste affinity that probably works. I should do that.
When you
So
when you made that chicken, did you just cover the thighs, or did you stuff it under the skin?
no, because I'd cut the thighs into like 1 inch pieces,
Okay. Okay.
and then I basically the marinade included the bacon,
Okay.
and then basically you don't rinse it off or anything like that. You once it's sat in the bag for an hour or two or however long it was, then you just put it on your skewers and onto the grill.
My mind started racing there for a second. Kind of like how you can stick butter under a chicken skin in the chicken, and
Sure, sure.
potentially doing that with bacon. There's an idea.
The bacon weave is an awesome thing too.
Little bacon baskets. Yeah, I've played a little bit with making. You're adding bacon ice cream and sort of like kind of on the same thing, bacon and bourbon, having like an old fashioned ice cream as well. It works really well because it's such a familiar flavor. Like, oh, I know this flavor. It's like, oh, that's what it is. It's bitters and bacon and all sorts of stuff. So it definitely starts getting interesting.
So I had at one time I had purchased the chocolate ice cream. I didn't make it, but I crisped up some bacon, crumbled that on top of the chocolate ice cream, a little fleur de sel finishing salt. I mean, fleur de sel on ice cream is just great. Just flavor explosion. Fleur de sel on watermelon too. It's like it is voodoo. Fleur de sel, secret ingredient. People, go get yourself some. Um, and then a drizzle of olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
So chocolate, bacon, fleur de sel, olive oil. Seems like a weird combo, but it's you're getting sweet and savory and salty and fatty all together.
That's like a non low carb one is adding saltines and olive oil to vanilla ice cream with a little bit of salt on top. It's like, what saltines? That's ridiculous. But it's
Hmm.
like an ice cream cone. It's nice, it's flaky, it's crispy, it's crunchy. Like, huh, okay. It's just as good. It's
Well,
delicious.
another hack, back when I was making grilled cheese sandwiches back pre-keto, is instead of buttering the bread using mayonnaise.
Mm-hmm.
It's oil and egg.
The
So you
fat.
wind up getting you get an even crispier exterior on the bread.
Have you tried a mayo seared steak?
I have not.
I
Should
tried it,
I?
but I failed horribly with it, so I can't give you.
Okay.
I was just curious if you, because the same thing. Yeah, it's oil and it's oil. I mean, you're gonna put oil in the pan, the cast iron pan. So would it work? It just might be more of a flavor bomb.
Well, and the egg part that you're using is the yolk, which is where the fat is all at. So I can see how it makes sense. But it's some people just think that stuff is weird.
Yeah, it would be kind of bad to ruin a bad ribeye or a good ribeye with that too. So it's like, is it worth? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, do we want to try this, or do you want to maybe cut a little piece off and see if that
Well,
works?
and there is a certain YouTube cooking channel that I watch periodically. I'm not going to name it, but people will probably figure out what it is. Where this guy will dry age steaks
Let's
in like
do
the crazy.
it.
Yeah, let's take $1,000 wagyu and dry age it in, you know, pudding in Drano,
Mm-hmm.
or something. It's like you're looking at it, you're like, why? Like if you're taking a crummy piece of beef and somehow, if you coat it with peanut butter and something and it turns out great, that's wonderful. But you're taking a wagyu steak. Why do you need to do this?
Yeah, because you should be able to try it. Well, it's the spectacle of it. Because if you can do it with a bad piece of beef and make it incredible, then I can see trying it with a wagyu piece of beef and making it just phenomenal. But yeah, if I it doesn't, it's just that's just the
But then again,
spectacle of
what,
it.
what do I know? He's got about 5 million more
Yeah,
subscribers than I got.
yeah.
So
Stop throwing stones, Steve. He knows what
more,
he's doing.
more and more power to him.
Yeah, one for the one steak for the show, one steak for him.
I'm sure he's got enough sponsorship that it's not like he's throwing down his own cash for the Wagyu.
Yeah, the crazy part is that like that's almost all he does now. Like he's almost pigeonholed himself into that sort of thing of here's this cut of beef doing this crazy weird thing and will it work? Which I think that's the one thing I don't know about you, but I hope to avoid if here's this complete pigeonhole like oh you're the like you say oh you're the chaffle guy like oh you're just the
Yep.
pizza guy it's because all you do is make pizza because that's all people want to see. It's like well yeah and now I hate my channel and my life and although I love pizza but still the all right what kind of pizza are we making this week? Pepperoni pizza. How about next week? Pepperoni and anchovies. How about next week? Pepperonis, anchovies, and peppers.
Well, and then when you start doing something that people get used to, and then you change, then they complain about that because now it's unfamiliar to them. I had a viewer just earlier this evening comment um, on my other YouTube channel, Lean Body Mind, where I don't wear the goofy T-shirts. I'm wearing a polo or I'm wearing a dress shirt because
How dare you
this
try
is
and
what I
act professional?
this is what I used to be. I used to be a professional that worked in a professional environment that had a dress code. And so as I'm talking about the things that were part of that career, it's just I'm more comfortable dressing, sort of business casual. And a viewer said, "No, I want to see you in your goofy t-shirts." So yeah, that's welcome to the life of a YouTuber.
Yeah, it's uh, it's a weird and zany thing. It is interesting. I mean, I don't know how often you get to explain to people like what you do and how crazy it can be. Like, do you get that much? Obviously, since this is your career now, it's like you don't have the like, oh, what do you do for fun or what do you do outside of work? It's like, well, this is my work.
Yeah, for a long time, I think up until the time I got my 100,000 subscriber plaque, my answer was I'm unemployed. It just seemed like that was
But
that was a quicker answer. And then I was like, okay, conversation over.
it's funny because you say that, and I remember there was a certain point where people like, oh, you have a YouTube channel, that's cool. Like, oh, you have 1,000 subscribers, and then it's like, oh, how many subscribers do you have? There's that point of like, here's the legitimacy. Like, oh, this is like you actually do have a thing. It's not just a joke or as a side gig. You're just not trying to be a Fortnite streamer, a video gamer type thing. Because I get that a lot of at least in my career of, oh, you have a YouTube channel? It's like, what's that like? It's like, well, it's a lot of work. Really? I didn't think so. It's like, yeah, anybody you see that's actually doing it for a living, it's a lot of work. And if they're not doing the work, somebody else on their team, if they have a team, is doing it. But yeah, it gets crazy. You did your hair wrong today, Steve. I don't appreciate it.
Yeah. Sorry, it's getting kind of shaggy here. And one final thought before we end, because we're bumping up against it on time here.
Already?
We've probably overshot. Yeah. But yeah, periodically. So the two big things that people say, or people that they'll say I look like, is Chris Hansen, from, what is it, Catch a Predator or whatever.
His final career move, yeah. So he was a reporter before that. Don't forget that he was a legitimate journalist, I think. I don't know if he was legitimate. I knew he was a journalist.
So I get that a lot. And then people will say Jason Bateman, and I think it's purely because of the hair, the fact that both of us have a head full of colics that are pretty much out of control. It's like
that straight hair.
Yeah, I just no matter what time of day it is, I kind of almost look like I've got bedhead.
Yeah, I can see that. You should just dye it jet black and start pretending like you're selling opiates in the Ozarks and see how that works out. Have you seen Ozarks, the show?
Yeah, I've seen the first. Well, it's been 3 seasons, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, so we're waiting for 4. But
that's pretty good. Recommend it.
Yeah,
if you haven't watched
it. I enjoy it. It's one of those like Breaking Bad. There's never going to be a happy ending on this.
Yeah, you start liking these horrible people doing horrible things. It's like, oh, but they're so human. It's the whole associating with the vulnerability of somebody, even if they are a shitty person. But that's a different.
See, now we're gonna have to edit out that.
Why? It's the end of the video. YouTube won't demonetize it.
Okay. And by now, most people have quit watching anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
So like, this ran way too long.
Yep.
So, Dennis, thank you once again for joining the podcast. We'll try and do this. This is the great thing, is we wind up talking so long each time that we're able to pull 2 podcasts out of every time we sit down together, which saves me a bit of work. And, we'll do this again in another month or so, if you're up for it.
Always.
Or unless my subscriber count drops off because of it.
Or you get banned.
Yes. All right. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in.
Hasta la vista.
So next week, it will be back to my regular podcasting sort of theme. Just me here at the table, talking to you, having some coffee. But if, in the meanwhile, you're interested in getting some more Steve solo podcasty type stuff, check out my other channel, Lean Body Mind. I'll link to it down in the description below. Thanks for watching.